In this video, we're going to be learning about inequalities, graphing inequalities, and getting the interval notation. And we're going to be dealing with these inequalities as though we're dealing with equations pretty much. The same rules are going to be applying. If you haven't gotten the chance to watch my series from video 1, please, I would suggest you watch those first. But other than that, let's get into it. So they're giving us an inequality here. The first thing I want you to know, if we go back to our revision, is if you're given something greater or less, right? Every time you're writing an interval notation, you're going to be using brackets, right? And every time you're given greater or equal to, and then less or equal to, every time you're using notations, we're going to be using square brackets. So anything, whenever you see this is greater, so meaning the interval notation, even without like working out this equation, has to be just parentheses, and then greater or equal to square brackets. These are parentheses, these are square brackets. Yeah. Another thing we have to note is every time we're given greater, less, we're going to be using this circle, just a circle, right? Non-dotted throughout, not shaded throughout. But every time we're using greater or equal to, less or equal to, we're going to be shading out our circle. Like it's going to be a full, complete dot, no space, And then one last thing, every time your interval has infinity, maybe positive infinity and negative infinity, we'll always be using these parentheses. Yeah? So for example, if you have a notation that is anything greater than 7, so maybe x is greater than, let's say 10, right? And you want to write the interval notation, so you write 10 up to infinity, and then you will do this. What if they tell you to write a notation of x is greater or equal to, so meaning anything greater, but it can also be equal to 10. So greater or equal to 10, you will write it as this square bracket, 10 up to infinity, and then use parentheses because this is infinity, right? So we'll use a parenthesis. What if you get an interval notation that is maybe x is less or equal to 3, so meaning anything less or equal to 3. So we'll write our 3 and write this because it's less or equal to, and then anything less or equal to 3 really can be negative infinity, and then we'll use our parentheses like that. So this is a very good refresher. So let's get into it, right? So here they're giving us 4 into x plus 3 is greater than negative 24. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to follow our 3 rules. Distribute, collect like terms, and work out the value of the unknown. So if we distribute, by now, guys, we should be really good at distributing. It just means opening brackets or multiplying 4 with everything that is inside brackets. So 4 times x, we'll get 4x plus 12 is 4 times 3, right? And this is greater than negative 24. So we want to get x along this side, yeah, or work out for x. So we'll subtract 12 both sides of the equations, and then we'll end up with 4x being greater than negative 36, right? So if you divide 4 both sides of the equation, you'll get x greater than negative 9. So what does this mean? Think about it. It just means anything greater than negative 9 is a solution to this, inequality. So if I have a number line or a graph, and here I have negative 9, and these arrows show that it goes on, and this arrow shows it goes on up to negative infinity, but we're really interested in where 9 is. And if you remember, because it's not greater or equal to, it's just greater than negative 9, we will use a circle like this, not full. It could be negative 7. It could be like go on up to positive infinity. So to write that interval, negative 9, comma, so it could be up to positive infinity. And then because of this value here, it's greater, right? It's not greater or equal to, it's greater. So we'll use our parentheses, right? So this is the interval notation. It's pretty easy, really. By the time we get to that last example, you'll have got the hang of it. All right. Please feel free to pause the video and take down a few notes. All right, let's move on to the next example. So in this next example, all right, they're giving us 6 plus 1 is less. What does that mean? That simply means, first of all, we're going to be using a dot that is not full, and then we're going to be using brackets, non-square brackets. So it's less. So the first thing we're going to do is collect like terms, right? Put x's on one side, and then put the constant to the other side. I'll be having 8x less 9 minus 1. And this would give us 8. Divide both sides by 8. Please feel free to pause this video and work it out yourself and see what you get, because I haven't gone through all the steps because I taught those in the first videos. So I'll have x less than 1 as the answer. So what I did, I took negative 2x the other side, it became a positive. It added to 6x, I got 8x. I brought 1 this side of the equation, became a negative 1. It reduced 9 to 8. So I'm having x being anything less than 1. So if we're having 0 here, and this side 1, 2, and this is maybe negative 1, negative 2. So we're having 1. So I'll go and plot 1 right there. But because we are having less than 1, I'm going to use a dot that is not complete. And x is anything less than 1, so it's all this side like that. So all those are part of the solution set. I'll start with the lower limit. Remember, less than 1, meaning 1 has to be the greatest of the interval, and then negative infinity. You see this? Going up to negative infinity. It could go on up to negative 1000, negative. So we just write it as negative infinity. But every time we're dealing with infinity anyway, we use parentheses. And every time we're dealing with a less, which is not a less or equal to, it's just a less, we use parentheses. So this would be the interval notation for this inequality.